Hi there, everybody. It's region weather meteorologist Matt Wintz. It's Sunday night. It's time for our region weather live broadcast. Keep in mind, we're recording this and you're watching this live around 8:20 p.m. local time. That'd be Central Time. So, if you're catching this later on, if you're catching this on Monday, Tuesday, you're going to want to go to either regionweather.com or our Facebook page to get the latest update on this storm. But, all indication over the last week and a half has been that we're going to see some kind of big storm across the eastern half of the country. And that still looks to be the case. In fact, a lot of the modeling has put Northwest Indiana right in the bullseye of this. Now, things are still going to fluctuate over the next couple of days. So I don't want us to get all crazy about the snowfall totals that the models are putting out. But this is something we're going to continue, as we have been for the last week and a half, to pay attention to, because this is going to be right smack in the middle of those Christmas plans that you may have, whether it be Christmas Eve services or a couple days before that, your last minute shopping. We're going to need to make some adjustments this week in terms of the way we do things and when we do things. And so we'll try to share some of the best knowledge in terms of what we're seeing. I'm getting a ton of questions, and I've been answering them all over the last hour or so. On travel. When do I take off for this trip? Should I change my flight? Should I change my trip time? So we'll try to answer that as best as we can as well. But I'm here just to give you the most meteorologically accurate information that we can possibly get at this time. I'll give you my opinion as well, as always. Can't leave that out. And we'll answer your questions as always. In this Sunday evening edition of Region Weather Live, we're going to run our intro video, and then we'll go ahead and get started here on the broadcast. And welcome in, everybody. It's region weather meteorologist Matt Wintz. Happy Sunday evening to you. I hope you had a nice weekend. A lot of holiday parties, I'm sure, getting started. A lot of you just going frantic, trying to get that last minute shopping done. We've got a couple more days with this. You saw there on the end, our sponsors. We cannot do this without them. They keep this thing free. I'm telling you, every week I get something from Facebook saying, you've got a lot of people following you. Why don't you start subscription services? No, Facebook, no. We're never going to do that, ever, ever, ever. And again, all this information is free. My time, especially with family and 3 kids, is valuable, at least in my mind, right? But I think you are more valuable because I started meteorology in Northwest Indiana. You guys know that from Lakeshore Public Television, and a lot of friends and family there. And you are family just like my family. So that's why we spend this time with you in the evening. And all this stuff ain't free, and our sponsors pay for that. So that's really, really awesome. So please support them. Ewing Residential Services is our newest sponsor. They do everything HVAC. They're local. They're wonderful. If you need anything done, whether it be adding a humidifier or getting your furnace repaired, you're going to need that done this week with the cold air coming in. So it's ewingresidentialservices.com. If you feel like getting out of Dodge or Northwest Indiana, Discovery Travel is our local travel agency. They're awesome as well. They'll plan everything in your trip, or as little in your trip as you could possibly want. They're on Facebook at Discovery Travel. It's trvl.com as their website as well. And then our 2 staples, our sponsors have been with us for over a year and a half. Wonderful, wonderful family-owned businesses. Tiger Plumbing. They don't charge trip fees. They come out for free. They'll analyze the problem. So many of you have used them. They're fun plumbers. They're just great. And so if you have any plumbing issues, whatever that happens to be, tigerplumbing.net, place to go. And then finally, Grieger's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram out of Valparaiso. They specialize in their Jeeps, folks, and they're fantastic. Jeeps are awesome as well, especially in this winter weather. But we may get enough snow where I don't know how much is going to be is going to be good in this kind of weather. So let's get into it in terms of the forecast. Dee, I appreciate the comment as well about using Tiger Plumbing recently. Next, I'm looking at contact the travel place. I love that, guys. That means the world to me when you support our sponsors, because they support our show. So I certainly appreciate that. All right, let's get into the modeling. This is where I want to start tonight. This is our jet stream. All right, lots of pretty colors. There you go. You notice we've got a couple different areas or ribbons of wind on here. This one coming through Southern California, and the southern that brings the moisture. That's called the subtropical jet. It's usually a little weaker this time of year. We get that a lot of times in the spring and in the fall. And then this one off towards the north that you see coming right out of Alaska comes right down the pike here and then comes right through the eastern U.S. That's our polar jet. So that brings the cold air. So typically north of that jet stream, you have the cold air. Typically down here, you have the warmer air, right? One brings the moisture, one brings the cold. Sometimes they all come together and you get a big storm system. But what's interesting with this, what we've had our eyes on is that cold air out in Siberia. They've had temperatures in Siberia minus 55. Even I saw minus 59 on the broadcast the other night. So they've got really cold air, and that's cold for them as well. We're not going to get that cold by any means, but that chunk of cold air that's up near Siberia is now on the move. It's part of the polar vortex. What the polar vortex is that ribbon of wind right along the North Pole that continues to spin and spin and spin and spin and spin. There's one along the South Pole too, but the North Pole is one of our concern. And what happens from time to time, when it's spinning, it keeps all the really cold air up by the North Pole. But sometimes during the year, and this became a big buzzword, what was that, 2013? This happens all the time. But what happens when that polar vortex, which is spinning, 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 gets a little bit weaker, and it's just not spinning as fast, sometimes it doesn't. It tends to let that cold air that's out in the North Pole, it kind of breaks it off into chunks, and it's allowed to kind of let loose a little bit. And so what we've seen over the last 2 weeks is that polar vortex has weakened a little bit, as it does sometimes, and a lobe of that cold air has gone off into Siberia. Well, that lobe of cold air that's in Siberia gets picked up by these jet streams like the polar jet, and that's what's going to be on the move this week. Is that lobe of polar vortex is going to be heading down into Canada here over the next couple of days, and it's going to come screaming into the U.S. on a very powerful jet stream. Sometimes they just come into the U.S. and it gets colder. You get a cold front. Yeah, it gets cold and windy. But this is a particularly strong push of air with this because it's getting picked up on a jet stream that's going to be racing anywhere from 180 to 200 knots. That's an incredible speed for a jet stream, about as fast as it gets. And here it is. So as we get to the maps, I kind of want to give you the big picture. This is why this is happening and what's going to happen as that cold air comes screaming into the U.S. We talked about this last Sunday night, the potential for this, right? And it looks like it's going to come to fruition this week. But as that comes screaming into the U.S., I've mentioned the reference, which I love to use, of pushing your hand through bathwater, right? When you do that, you get the spin-ups on the side of your hand, right? The water swirls on the sides of both sides of your hand. Same thing with the atmosphere. Atmosphere is very fluid, right? It's chaotic up there. It's no wonder we can even predict anything that's going to happen, but we still get bad emails, when we don't. But here's the deal. When you have that cold air, that Arctic air screaming into our atmosphere, what it's going to do here in the U.S. is spin up a swirl, right? Much like the bathwater. And that swirl is going to be this compact area of low pressure. That's going to be a really powerful area of low pressure. It's not just going to be your typical winter low. This one's going to pack a punch. And usually when a low pressure is strong, what that means, first and foremost, is wind. You're going to get a huge wind machine because the lower that pressure is, the more of a vacuum gets created in the atmosphere, and all the air around it has to rush into that vacuum to fill that space. And that's what wind is. All the wind that we're going to have over the course of this week, later this week, is going to be rushing in to fill that low. So, and it's going to be widespread, eastern half of the country. All right. The other thing you have to deal with is moisture with that. How much moisture is going to be with that? And this one's going to pick up quite a bit from the Gulf, and it already has some from the Pacific. So let's get into the maps. Here we go. That's my Reader's Digest version of what's happening. Way up here, this little ribbon of jet stream right here is what we're going to watch. So I'm going to go through time here. This is today, into out in the Pacific, kind of there, heading into Washington State on Tuesday. And then here we go. We developed ridge towards the south. That's that hand getting pushed through water, okay? And as it gets pushed through the water, so to speak, it spins up this low pressure on the northern side of it. You can kind of see it there. Again, this is the wind in the atmosphere. But look at this trough that gets dug out. And north of that, you're going to have this big old low. You've got the cold air in place, right, from that polar jet. And then eventually this thing rips off this huge low. There's your low. There's the wind around it. I mean, this thing is just going to continue to spin and spin like a top because you've got multiple hands pushing along that ribbon of strong wind, which is going to continue to spiral that thing. Eventually, it takes up the whole eastern half of the country. Then it heads up. The amazing thing to look at on the map is just how big this is. It's impressive. I mean, I've been in meteorology now for, I think I'm at the 15-year mark, and I have not personally seen a low pressure this strong in my viewing area, wherever I've happened to be. We've been through the blizzards before, I get it, and those are big systems, but this is really impressive in terms of the strength of this low. And then you can see it heads up near the Hudson Bay, and it continues to spin, not quite at the same speed, but we stay kind of trophy across the east, which continues to bring in the cold air, at least according to the Euro. So let's talk more specifics in terms of exactly what we're expecting in terms of the modeling. These are the maps that you've been used to that we've been showing over the last week and a half with this system. I'm going to zoom in a little bit as well so we can get kind of a better read of what the storm may be doing locally. If you joined me on, what was it, Thursday or Friday, we had a Region Weather Live, or last Sunday, we were talking about how the GFS model and the Euro model didn't agree, right? Even the Canadian model we'll look at sometimes. None of them really matched up. The GFS had an East Coast storm with some snow for us. The Euro was a little bit more impressive with bringing us snow. All the models brought us lake effect, which I told you two things. I said we're going to be guaranteed the cold air. That's not going to change much. And we're going to be guaranteed some lake effect with the system no matter where it goes. Those two things still hold true. But what we have now over the last couple of Region Weather Lives is we have some agreement, some consensus with the models. So we're in the time frame now, 3 to 5 days out, where we can start to hone in on the track of this. We now know what kind of beast we're going to be dealing with, and now we can hone in on the track. Track is still key with this, right? That determines how heavy our snow is, or if we get some rain with it, etc. But overall, we're at that point now where this storm system is going to happen, whether we like it or not. But that track's going to depend on exactly how bad it's going to be. So we had a little lake snow over the weekend. We've cleared that out. Again, I'm referencing our last Region Weather Live. We talked about this system here. Remember, there were two phases to this. This is Tuesday. There's going to be some snow to our north. There's rain to the south. Remember, the models, the GFS wanted to kind of put them together and bring some snow in here. Euro wanted to keep it separate. Well, the Euro wins because that's what's going to happen. We may have some snow flurries around here Tuesday, but by and large, there's just going to be an area of light snow to the north, and that's it. This is not our system, okay? Here comes our system after that. So we start to see that cold air rush into the western U.S. really, really quickly. Here it comes now. This is the leading edge of the cold air. There's going to be a widespread area of snow with this, pretty much like an Arctic front. We get those a lot of times in January, where you get snow and wind and it just turns sharply colder. But in terms of Wednesday, I want you to start thinking about exactly what you've got going on in your schedule this week, okay? Some of you working Monday, Tuesday, some of the kids in school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So, we don't have problems Monday, Tuesday. If you have last minute shopping to do, Monday, Tuesday are good days. Wednesday looks okay as well. I don't see anything really coming in other than some maybe late day flurries on Wednesday as the system starts to evolve, but most of it will be off towards the west. We are now at Wednesday night in terms of the Euro model, right? And remember, these are still just models. This is guidance saying this is what we think is going to happen given all the 100 variables of what's going on right now. But again, the models have good consensus, so that tells me that this is going to be something that could happen. There's a really good chance that it's going to happen like this. All right, so we're at Wednesday night now. This is Thursday morning. Notice we're starting to feel some impacts from this storm. I don't think it'll be bad Thursday morning. A couple of things that we'll see. The wind will start to pick up a little bit, but it's not going to be that windy on Thursday morning. We could get a rain-snow mix around here. Some of the stronger storm systems we've seen in history have typically had a warm side to them where we actually started as rain. And that could be the case with this as the system pulls in warm air from the Gulf. So we're now up to Thursday morning. Again, Euro saying maybe a little bit of rain, snow, but this is when the impacts start to be felt, Thursday morning, okay? By midday Thursday and early afternoon, we're still dealing with this mix of rain, snow. The Arctic front is getting closer. It will be colder in Dallas and Oklahoma City than it will be here Thursday midday, all right, as that cold air gushes south. Remember, that cold air is gushing down towards the south. It starts to spin up a low on the north side. Where do we happen to be? On the north side of this. So watch how this low spins up. So by Thursday afternoon, still kind of rainy and snowy around here. But by Thursday night, here's our low pressure as it gets going now to our south, says the Euro. But what we have going on is strong Arctic air, very cold air, like zero, like -10 temperatures, pushing into 40-degree air mass, all right? So our temperature is going to crash Thursday evening into Thursday night. When that happens, let's say we have some rain around here on Thursday mixed with snow, it's going to be wet, all right? This is going to be a situation where we have a flash freeze, where every single wet surface that we have from the daytime Thursday turns to black ice on Thursday night into Friday. That's when stuff goes downhill fast, okay? So in terms of your week and in terms of what you're planning to get done, you want to do it before, I would say, Thursday midday, all right? If you have travel plans Thursday evening, Thursday night, I would reconsider moving that ahead of time, whether it be Wednesday or Thursday. Personally, we have a family Christmas party scheduled for Friday. It doesn't look good at this point, and we're going to just cancel it now and go with that. Even Saturday's looking a little rough, and I'll show you that. But Thursday night is when things start to go downhill, okay? So where do we go downhill to? Well, let's take a look. Low pressure continues to strengthen. We go from probably 38, 39 degrees on Thursday midday down to 0 or so Thursday night into Friday. Okay, huge temperature drop. The wind is going to start to howl as this low pressure rapidly strengthens. The wind will go from probably a southerly direction initially, southeasterly direction initially. It's going to switch over quickly to northwest wind, and it's going to be howling out. What happens Thursday night is the system really gets going, moisture's locked in. We turn any rain and snow that we had Thursday midday and afternoon over to not just ice on the ground, but a very heavy snow is going to come through here, okay? And again, this is as it looks right now. Do I expect a lot of change? I don't. It could still change some, right? But again, the models all agree on this. The Euros had this solution for 3 days straight, so I don't expect a lot of change with this. What is going to change with this is exactly how heavy that snow is. But as of right now, there's going to be some heavy snow coming through here Thursday night into Friday. Friday morning, forget about it, all right? This low is out towards Michigan now, just out towards our east. The Euro says we're in the sweet spot of that. That's where you get the heaviest snow. So we're going to have driving winds, probably 40 to 50 miles per hour. I'm going to need water here in a second. My voice is starting to go. We're going to have driving wind, and we're going to have heavy snow around. The other thing we're going to throw into that is the lake. So we're going to have lake enhanced snow. That's not lake effect. That's lake enhanced. I'm sorry. Oh, my voice is going. Hold on 1 second if you can. I've got a Waterloo, which is the best thing in the next room. 1 second. Okay. Excuse me. This is it, everybody. This is the flavor right here. Okay, we're going to do that. That'll help. All right, we'll get our mic back on. Thanks for bearing with us. The forecast is not sponsored by Waterloo, I promise, but they're good. And if you haven't tried the black cherry yet, if you are a meteorologist who talks a lot and then you get this little, I don't know what it is, you talk too much, that really solves it. So we're good now. Okay, so we're now into Friday. We've got heavy snow and driving wind with this system. Cold air is pushed all the way over towards West Virginia now. It's screaming in there, remember? And we're now talking lake enhanced snow. So we've got system snow coming down, which is already heavy. We're throwing that over a relatively warm Lake Michigan, so that's picking up more snow. So we're likely to see heavier amounts near the lakeshore if this verifies. After that, what's happened on the modeling over the last couple of days is this low pressure has just, the GFS and the Euro took it out of here, right? So we get that hit of snow and then it's gone. What's changed over the last 2 days is it kind of goes up north and then continues to wrap and holds and kind of comes back at us before going out. So that makes it a worse storm, at least in terms of visual appearance on this, in terms of how much snow we'll get. So instead of just going by, notice how the storm kind of wraps up and comes back down at us. That's Friday night into Saturday, okay? So that's the 23rd into the morning of Christmas Eve, where we're continuing to see heavy snow. We're continuing to see really strong winds, blowing and drifting snow like crazy, and it's not letting up a whole lot. So that's Christmas Eve morning right there. All right. So then we're into Christmas Eve day now. That's when things look like they're going to start to improve, which is good news. We're probably going to have a lot of snow on the ground. It's going to be bone-chilling cold, like as cold as we get this time of year. The wind is going to continue to go, and we're now turning the storm over to lake effect, all right? The heaviest lake effect looks to be up in Michigan and LaPorte County from this. It's continued to kind of look like that, but I still think we're going to have wide enough moisture source and still some system snow around where Lake Porter and everyone else is still getting some snow from this on Christmas Eve. All right. Eventually, by Christmas Eve night, we start to lose the snow. It turns to lake effect mainly in Michigan and LaPorte County. And then on Sunday, Christmas Day itself, we're still dealing with lake effect, albeit a little bit lighter, but the wind is still out of the northwest and it's just cold outside. All right. So that's the storm. Let me show you differences in the models now, and then we'll talk some of the totals that are being thrown out there. What I don't want us to do is get ahead of ourselves and say, hey, it's Sunday night. The model's saying, however many inches, and then you don't pay attention to the weather forecasts over the next 4 days. And then it's something not totally different, but it's something different, right? This is something that we're going to continue to watch fluctuate with the models, but they've got a good handle on it now. All right, so here's the euro. Again, this is Thursday night. I'm going to switch to the GFS and show you the difference. There you go. Much different, right? It's in a totally different place, but it's got the same idea. So the GFS is actually colder, and it doesn't bring any rain in here. It brings mainly snow. So you notice how it develops Thursday, right? Remember we said Thursday's the day it starts to go downhill. So the GFS, the American model, which still in my mind isn't the most accurate, right? You know how I feel about the GFS. But that brings some snow in here Thursday, and then it really ramps it up Thursday night into Friday with this low pressure going right up the gut of Indiana. That would put us really in the sweet spot for heavy snow. If this were to shift a little bit further west, that could bring some icing and rain in here. I don't like the look of the GFS, though. The Euro has had that same look to the forecast the last 3 days. The GFS had this as an East Coast storm. Before that, last Sunday night, it brought heavy snow down to Florida Panhandle for Christmas, so they were freaking out. There's something missing with the GFS, and there's hundreds and thousands of variables that go into these models, but I don't know. I just don't trust it. I really don't. But we look at it and we can't discount it. So GFS has a big storm, heavy snow Friday, heavy snow Saturday. Eventually, the whole thing kind of pulls out of here. There's your Christmas Eve. There's your Christmas itself with lake effect snow winding down. So it's pretty similar. Tracks just a lot different. Last thing we're going to look at here is the Canadian model. I always look at this kind of for the tiebreaker. And it's very similar to both models as well. And you can see this is the latest. This is the latest run of the Canadian model. You can see it's very similar to the Euro in that it brings some warm air in here where it's kind of rain, snow, or right on the line. Thursday night, it goes downhill. Friday, we've got heavy snow and wind, albeit not quite as heavy as the other two models. And there you see Friday into Saturday, it's just a mess around here with the wind, and everything kind of winds down on Sunday. All right. Let me show you the wind real quick. These are your wind gusts. We'll go back to the Euro. You get a picture of kind of what that looks like there, because this thing's going to have some wind energy with it. Remember, we mentioned that earlier. So here comes your wind. Let me switch it to 12Z real quick, because 18Z only goes out 90 hours. Our 12Z models are freshest data. Remember, we talked about that. Here it comes on Wednesday out towards the west. These are wind gusts that we're looking at right now. Look at that line of Arctic air coming in, 40-mile-per-hour gusts, just like that. It comes screaming in here. So Thursday night, remember, it starts to go downhill, probably 20 to 30-mile-per-hour winds. Friday, we get the snow around here. We're talking 30 to 40-mile-per-hour winds. And then by Friday night, that's when the system really gets to be its strongest. The Euro continues to spit out 50 to 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts around here with heavy snow falling. I see some almost 70-mile-per-hour totals out over the lake. Remember, it's frictionless out there. But widespread 50 to 60-mile-per-hour winds on Friday night into Saturday. Saturday still looks windy as well, gusts to 50 possible. And then Sunday for Christmas Day, we start to see things relax. By Sunday night, we should have winds that aren't even gusting anymore as high pressure settles in. But we'll likely have a good snowpack. It's going to be really cold around here as well. All right. I want to show you temperatures because we got to go through that. I'll show you snow totals here in just a second. Again, I don't want us to get too crazy about the snow totals because snow totals are crazy. But I want us to know the potential of this storm system as it comes in. Okay, here's your temperatures. So here's Tuesday. We're in the mid-30s. Enjoy it. Look at this cold air coming into the west. Wednesday, here's your highs right here, mid-30s still. And then here comes the cold air. Look at that, just screaming in here. So this is Thursday, mid-30s says the Euro. Remember, we've got rain and snow kind of mixed. could get a little messy, especially afternoon on Thursday. Thursday night's when it goes downhill. So we go from 35 to 30 to 12 to 7 in a matter of hours. And then eventually we've got, I mean, look at this. The Euro saying it's going to be -6 in Rensselaer Friday morning waking up after you were just 35 degrees. And notice how this cold air wraps in, showing the strength of the low. It's going to be warmer up in northern Michigan than it is here because of the way everything wraps around. Just a crazy, crazy storm system. And then we stay cold, as I mentioned. I mean, we barely get above, 8 degrees or so on Friday. The rest of the day, Saturday looks cold. Monday looks cold as well. We'll start to warm things up eventually a little bit, but just incredible. All right. Okay, so last thing I'm going to do, let's go over snowfall totals here, at least what the models are showing. The only reason why I show this is because I'm looking at it. I'm going to share it with you. But what I don't want you to do is look at this and say, hey, we're going to get this amount of snow on, by Christmas. Okay, that's not the case. What we look for in this is trends. We look for, well, what are the highest totals that the storm can produce? What are, what's the range of that? What's the room for error on this? Okay. Snow totals is something we really hone in on 2 to maybe 3 days out from an event. I would say 2 to be safe. And that's not lazy forecasting. That's being responsible forecaster, okay? I can't tell you we're going to get 40 inches from the system now because the Euro happens to be saying it and then let you go the rest of the week, okay? That's not how this works. The other thing that we need to be focused on is it doesn't matter how much snow we get. It really doesn't. It matters what the impacts are going to be from that. All right, if we get 12 inches versus 18 inches, but have a 60-mile-per-hour wind blowing it all over the place, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. It's going to be the same impact both ways, nasty, right, and dangerous travel, etc. So here we go. This is Thursday. This is Friday. We're looking at the Euro, so this is the one I like the most in terms of accuracy. There's Friday. I mean, look at this. Look at these amounts that the Euro is spitting out. This is Saturday. And I'm going to take you all the way up through Christmas right here. This is Christmas. So again, this number is going to change, okay? But the potential's there for something like this, all right? And that's why we're spending so much time on this tonight. But the Euro saying anywhere from, as of this evening's run, anywhere from about 22 to 36 inches of snow. I hope that excites some of you. I also hope that you realize this is going to be a white Christmas, okay? And again, guys, if this comes to fruition, this is a big storm. I mean, I already think it is, and you know me, I don't like to hype things. If it's not a big deal, it's not a big deal. Some of the output on these models is a big deal, and this would be a storm where you're going to want to have all your ducks in a line and maybe actually get some bread and milk at the store and just hunker down for Christmas. My concern is that we have a bunch of people that are going to try to travel in this, or they're going to cancel last minute and say, oh, the weatherman said this, but they're always wrong. And then you take the family in the car, and then that polar front goes by where we go from 40 degrees down to 0, and you've got problems, right? So I just want us to kind of, last week it was take this with a grain of salt. This week it's, okay, we're paying attention, okay? And we're going to look at the latest guidance. We're going to continue to watch these numbers and see how they pan out. But again, numbers of 20 to 36 inches of snow, throwing 60-mile-per-hour winds on top of that, throwing temperatures that are in the single digits with wind chills at -20, -25. This is about as bad as it gets if this comes to fruition, right? Some things that I'm going to look for this week is the track of that low. I want all the models to agree on how this low wraps up. Remember, the GFS had it a little bit less wrapped up, and then it finally did it. The GEM was a little bit more spread out in terms of this. They're not quite aligned yet, but they're all very similar. So that tells me that we've got something big coming, but we're not sure how big. All right, so let's look at this. I want to show you the other two models briefly, then we'll answer your questions. This is the GFS output with the same storm. We're going through the same, let's see here. There we go. And you can see the GFS as of tonight, again, this could change, has very similar numbers. It's putting out anywhere from 29 inches to 35 inches in Northwest Indiana. It has us getting more than anywhere in the country as of tonight. By tomorrow night, we could be talking something else. This could be west of us, and we could get into this. We could have like a 5 to 10 incher, okay, tomorrow night. It just depends. But as of right now, I mean, we're right in the heart of it, and it's all about that low. If that low passes down towards Indianapolis, the heaviest snow's on the northwest side of the low, and that's what it looks to be. All right, this is the gem. Remember, the gem wasn't as enthused with the amount of moisture in this system, so we could be looking at numbers like this. So anywhere from 10 to 14 inches of snow, but you go up towards Berrien County in Michigan, they have a lot of lake effect. The gem does. So it's saying 33 inches there, right? But that range is still kind of similar in this, in that we can get some of those higher totals here, okay? All right, that's all I have for you. We're going to obviously be tracking this throughout the week. I am working tomorrow at the station, so we'll have an update there. But after that, I'm on vacation this week here with the family. And I already told my wife we're going to be spending some time doing some forecasting down in the weather center, as we call it. I'm literally doing laundry right through the door where I got my Waterloo. So it's nothing fancy, but anyway, we are going to have updates for you this week. I mean, this is something that I think we need to be paying attention to. Okay. All right. So I'll try to answer as many questions as I can here. Please don't ask. The only question I ask that you don't ask is how much for my city or how much for my town. Okay. Again, we're all in the same book together. We are not that specific yet. We're still 5 days away from this. So I'm not going to be able to answer that. Mike, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm glad my voice didn't go out. That would have been embarrassing. Christina, yes, lake effect looks to taper off on Sunday. It looks to become more of a Laporte. The way the wind's flowing looks to be more of a Laporte problem on Saturday. Could be widespread, though, but the heaviest would be out towards Laporte, and then it'd head up into Michigan with leftover after that. Tom, you're welcome. I hope it helped. Dee, you're welcome as well. Sarah, good question. What about people getting off on Thursday evening? Should we try and leave early, people 5 p.m. and later? Sarah, I think so. Give it another day or so, before we start making plans at work with this. I would certainly, if you're the boss, then that's something you need to be thinking about. If you're not the boss, that's something I would plant in your boss's ear, is say, hey, meteorologist, you can even throw my name out there. That's fine. They're calling for a big temp drop on Thursday night with things going downhill early. I would say, as of right now, if this all holds, I would say anytime before 5 would be the best time to get off work, right? Because it's Thursday evening. I feel like things are going to go downhill. Russ, next week's that's a really good question. He asked, what do you see the following week? Russ, it's split on the modeling right now. I tend to believe the Euro has us staying cold. It has another Clipper system coming in a couple days later, because we're getting into New Year's Eve, all that stuff. The Euro has us staying cold, at least for a little bit. The GFS has us warming up, and it has like a low to our west with all this warm air coming in with rain for New Year's Eve, 40s. Talk about snow melt. We'd have flooding problems then. So it's too early to call. In terms of the modeling, I tend to believe the colder side of things. I think once we lay down the snow, there's heavy snow up in the Dakotas right now. There's a huge, deep snowpack. This is one of the best early winter snows that we've had in a long time across the eastern half of the country and southern Canada. I tend to believe that's going to keep things colder. I think the GFS is overdoing it. Eileen, you're welcome. Monique, you're welcome as well. Susan, hope that helps. Cheyenne, in terms of starting, we're going to start to feel some impacts Wednesday evening. Thursday is really when the storm starts to move in. And it doesn't look too bad up and through about midday. And we may have some rain mixed in with this. It could just be all snow, but it doesn't look to really go downhill until Thursday night. And then Friday just looks bad in terms of wind and very heavy snow and cold. And Saturday doesn't look like a piece of cake either. So that's kind of where we're going. Elliot, good question. How much do you think southwestern Ohio will get? Elliot, you're going to get some snow even in southwestern Ohio as well as this thing kind of wraps through. I'll show you some of the outputs on the Euro here. And southwestern Ohio may get a lot more if this track shifts. If the track shifts further off towards the east, we could certainly get more for you down there in the Cincinnati, Dayton area, wherever you happen to be. But this is the latest Euro. Again, this is through Christmas. And you see southwestern Ohio. I mean, this isn't easy. This is 6 to 9 inches as of right now. We'll go 6 to 10. But anyway, you could just see the footprint of this is going to be wherever that low tracks. So if you're a snow lover and you want that bullseye, you're going to want this jet stream to be stronger and form this low further east. Remember, if that pushes harder from the jet stream, it'll spin up that low further east. And 20, 30 miles is going to make a big difference with this. And this low pressure is still way up near the North Pole right now. So we're not getting a good read of this. Max, I never guarantee anything in weather, but I would imagine someone is going to have a blizzard warning from this. We'll have a blizzard watch first and then a warning. Alexis, you're welcome. Robert, great question. He says, when are you expecting this to hit the coast for the weather balloons to start getting data? We should start to get a good read of this on Monday. So probably tomorrow afternoon, we should get a good read of it. A lot of this is going to be up in Canada. So, we're getting different data, but it's equally as accurate once it hits land. So I would say tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night ought to be a good one. And then by Tuesday, we should have the track of this pretty locked in terms of the data coming in versus, a coastal storm. Louis, you're welcome. Tom, great question. I didn't bring that up. Light, fluffy, or heavy wet snow, or a combo. It's going to be a combo with this. So it's probably going to start as a heavy wet snow just maybe for an hour or two. And what's going to end up happening, remember, the snow heaviness and lightness is dependent on temperature. So as this temperature crashes with the system, this is going to turn into a light snow and by light snow, I mean weight-wise. It's going to be a heavy snow, but it'll be light in weight. So that poses problems because when we're throwing 50 to 60 mile per hour wind on it, that's just going to blow around like crazy. I mean, that's the thing that, let's say the heaviest snow misses us. Let's say we get 8 to 12 inches of snow, which is still a good storm, okay? The lightness of it and the cold air temperatures are in the wind with this system. The wind is a guarantee with us. The wind and the cold are two guarantees. But if we get those two in a combination, we're still going to have blowing and drifting snow this weekend, all right? Who cares if we get 30 inches, right? If we get 10 inches with blowing and drifting snow and 60 mile per winds, your impacts are still the same. And that's why we need to focus on the impacts from this. We're all going to be impacted regardless of where this low goes this weekend. And you're welcome, Chris. You're welcome, Walter. He just says, wow, I like that. That's good. I've said, wow, looking at these models too. It's really impressive. Jarita, you're welcome. Thank you very much. I am a no drama guy. I appreciate that. I'm not looking for clicks. Stephanie's not ready for this. Well, Stephanie, you've got a couple days for this. Okay. So, Louis, thank you very much. Listening to us every day on 103.9 FM. That's fantastic. Yeah. We love working with them. They're the whole Adams radio group is just awesome. They're good folks. Jacob, you can always go back and watch. If anyone hasn't, if you missed the beginning, you can always go back and watch on here. Okay. Let's see. Andrew, now you promised last week if I unpacked my snowblower, it wouldn't happen. So I didn't unpack it. Now look, that's awesome. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Just keep that snowblower in the box, Andrew. Everything is correlated to if someone buys a new snowblower, if you unpack it, we don't get snow. But if you keep it in the box, we get snow. That's just how it works. Darren says 70 the next week. Probably, Darren. I don't see that. Sarah, you're welcome for sure. Cynthia, happy holidays to you. Erica, I agree with you. I think we're going to have such a mess around here. The problem, with Christmas Day, as we're looking forward to it, right? If we still have the wind around, even if the snow stops, that wind doesn't die down until Christmas night, at least what I'm looking at. So, we'd have blowing and drifting snow. It would still be really messy around here Christmas Day. Susan, I'm glad you had your Christmas party yesterday as well. Yeah, this looks to be over 6-incher for sure. DK, you're welcome, buddy. Thanks for joining us tonight. Jennifer, you're welcome as well. You're welcome as well. We'll keep you updated. Let's see. Amanda, Friday morning doesn't look good at all. Could you explain the difference? Okay, Debbie asked a great question. Could you explain the difference between lake enhanced snow and lake effect snow and how the lake not being frozen yet, is that a factor? Yeah, Lake Michigan doesn't usually freeze over all the way, and we have virtually no ice on Lake Michigan now. There's only a little bit up in Lake Superior. It's like 0.8% or something like that. So lake effect snow is when you don't have a system. What I mean by system is an area of low pressure with, rain, a warm front, cold front. Lake effect snow is when you just have cold air coming over the lake. Otherwise, if you didn't have the lakes, it'd be a clear sunny day, right? Or a couple clouds, whatever. But what lake effect snow is when you have conditions like that, but you get cold air over the lake. And what that does, it's much like if you have, let's say you're cooking and you have, a pot of boiling water, right? The reason why you see the steam is because the air is cooler around it, right? And so that's exactly what the lake is doing. You can't see the steam, but it's doing that. When you get colder air over it and the relatively warm lake water, it's steaming. And when you have that cold air blowing in it, the steam organizes into clouds. Eventually, those clouds get heavy enough. And as they hit the Indiana shoreline, there's a terrain increase. The land goes up, especially over by the dunes, right? And so what that does is it takes that moisture, it rises it even more, and it wrings out snow from it. And that's why you get those organized bands, right? Most of us know what lake effect snow is, if we've lived here long enough. What lake enhanced snow is when you have a system that's already producing snow, like a big area of low pressure where everyone's getting snow. What happens is the same effect. You get the cold air over the lake, you get more condensation and heavier snow forming out over the lake, and wherever that goes, much like lake effect snow, it produces typically a heavier ribbon of snow somewhere in and along the lake shore. So essentially what lake enhanced snow is, it's double the power of the system snow that's moving through. And that's why we get some of the heaviest totals sometimes right along the lake shore when a storm system goes through, because you're adding the moisture from the lake on top of the moisture that the system's already producing. So hope that helps. Oh, Ann asked a good question. My dad has Christmas at his sister's on Sunday in LaPorte, right up 421. That's very specific in terms of location, Ann, and we're not to that point yet where we can say, hey, they're going to get a lot of snow there. I don't see the roads clearing up very much for Christmas. It's too early to call that. As of right now, I would probably lean yes. But again, we're talking a week from today. So a lot can change between now and next Sunday. Let's say things wind down Saturday morning. I don't think they will, but let's say they do. NDOT, I don't know how much staff they'll have out. I'm sure they'll have, full staff, but also, it is Christmas weekend. So I don't know how they do that. But it's too early to call that. I would probably say yes at this point, but just have that conversation with him right now over, hey, we've got a storm coming. Let's maybe come up with a backup plan and maybe consider everyone staying home on Christmas, Wayne, yeah, I think so. In the best case scenario, will the lowest total still cause blizzard conditions? I think so. Again, blizzard isn't just snow falling from the sky. You can have blizzard conditions without any snow falling from the sky. It just happens to do with duration. You have to have certain winds. I think it's over 35 or something like that for 3 hours. You have to have low visibility. I forgot the third one. I always forget the third one. But anyway, you have to have criteria for that. And we can get that without snow falling from the sky. So I think the wind component of the storm alone, mixed with that fluffy snow that we're going to end up having, is going to cause problems regardless of anything. Okay. Karina, yeah, Wheatfield's involved in this as well. I'll let you guys read Erica's comment. It's probably very true. That's okay. Lisa, if you go back and watch on there, Newton and Jasper County right in the middle of it as well. Yeah. We're not quite sure of the amounts yet. The model's spitting out anywhere from 20 to 40 inches, and I'm not making that up. Sarah, you don't have to at all. Our sponsors support me enough for sure. So you don't worry about that. I appreciate it though. That's great. So James and Nancy, those would be the gusts, 50 to 60. It wouldn't be consistent at that. We'd probably have a pretty constant 20 to 30 around here, which to have a constant 20 to 30, that's real decent, right? With gusts to 50, 60. I also worry about power outages. I didn't even cover that. But I worry about that as well, especially with this cold coming in, and not just for us, for everywhere in the eastern half of the country, it's going to be seeing the wind. The Mullet Barber says Northwest Arkansas is going to get more than that. Y'all aren't talking about the fact that these snow ratios will not be 10 to 1. They won't be 10 to 1. You're absolutely right. But what this model on here that I'm showing considers exactly how much moisture is in that. It does the ratio automatically. So that's why I don't talk snow ratio anymore, because we've got the modeling that shows, given the moisture content of that snow, how much is going to fall for sure. But yeah, Northern Arkansas is in line for this. I don't know if you're watching from down there, but it's the cold air is going to be the biggest story for you guys down there. I mean, this cold air goes all the way down to Florida. I saw Atlanta is going to have the coldest readings they've had in a long time. I think they're expecting a high of 24. So really incredible stuff. Rob, so we're locked up tomorrow night. Tuesday night is going to be our next update on here. And we'll probably do a Tuesday night, a Wednesday night, Thursday. We'll give you some updates during the day as well, as we usually do. And we'll be on our radio stations here in Northwest Indiana. Mary, they are. I'm telling you, they're going to have fun. Amy, that's interesting. I think North Georgia mountains are going to get some snow from this. There's going to be enough moisture driving south from this that I think we continue with that upslope. I think the Smoky Mountains are going to get a little snow from this as well. The cold is going to be the big thing, but I don't know about at least an inch. I think it's going to be spotty, the North Georgia mountains. The Euro's not too excited, but I think those numbers are on, at least for the mountains. So we'll see. Let's see. I'm trying to catch up. I think I'm way behind on you guys. I'm sorry. Jeremy, Pittsburgh always gets the short end of the stick. More ways than one, Jeremy. You're welcome, Lisa, for sure. Okay. Mesha asked a good question. What does travel from Northwest Indiana and Tennessee look like for Thursday night? Great question. Not good. Thursday night, though, I think will be better than Friday, but barely. And the problem with Thursday night, any travel plan, is we're going to have that temp drop. So there's going to be black ice. Okay. So here, let's take you through it. So here's Thursday night. Here's our low. Man, you got to get on the road early if you're going to do that. It looks to be, and again, this is not truth right here. This is a model, but the Euro has had this solution for 3 days, so I like it. It will probably be raining if you get out of here early enough Thursday, especially as you get down towards Indianapolis. But here's what's chasing you. Okay, here's Friday, or this is Thursday night. This is like 9 o'clock. This is midnight. All right. And notice what's happening. You've got this huge temperature drop as that Arctic front goes in. So I-65 is going to turn into a mess. It's going to be raining. All of a sudden, you're going to get hit with this wind gust. Your temperature on your car thermometer is going to go from 40, probably down to 10, down to 0. Okay. All the rain is going to turn to ice. Road crews cannot salt or pre-treat when it's raining outside. They can, but it does no good because the rain washes it away. So there's going to be no pre-treatment on the roads to save anybody, and all that stuff's going to turn to ice. I do not see good travel, and I would recommend that you either change that to early Thursday, like get out of here as fast as you can, because this is coming in Thursday late afternoon and evening at the earliest, Thursday night, probably 9 through midnight at the latest, okay? That's my concern for travel right there, is things are going to turn nasty in a hurry. And the temperature doesn't just drop, it turns to heavy snow on top of that. So there's going to be all sorts of problems for people traveling then. Hope that helps. Let's see. Snipes, in terms of St. Louis, I think the cold's going to be impactful, and I do think you get heavy snow. I think this whole thing, actually, we're looking at it right here. So this whole thing comes in. You're probably going to start as rain in St. Louis Thursday. It's just like Northwest Indiana, same thing here, where you start as rain, and then Thursday afternoon, Thursday night, that Arctic front hits you. You go from rain to a huge temperature drop. Black ice is going to be a big issue by Thursday evening, Thursday night, and then you get this chunk of heavy snow that moves through, and it's going to be blizzard-like outside when that moves through. And again, there's no term blizzard-like. I always catch people saying that it's either a blizzard or it's not. It's going to be like a blizzard, but not blizzard-like. I hope that makes sense. They're both the same thing. Let's see. Murphy, in terms of the Carolinas, we're national question, and that's okay because a lot of people are traveling, obviously. Murphy, in terms of the Carolinas, it's going to be rain for the majority of the event, but eventually this cold air gets down to the Carolinas on Friday. The problem in the Carolinas with storm systems is, does the cold air make it there while you still have the moisture around, right? That tends to be the problem, is usually the dry air comes in and then the cold air gets there. So, any precip you have tends to be on the rainy side of things, unless you got an East Coast systems coming down from Georgia, right? We call those the panhandle hooks, where they kind of come up the spine of the Appalachians. That's not the case with this one. This one has the rain, cold air gushes in, and will there be moisture on the back side? I think the mountains are going to get some snow in the Carolinas. But in terms of snow, you can see it right here on the modeling. You see how the moisture is leaving. We have some snow out towards the west. So Boone, Asheville is going to be getting some snow, but it doesn't look like much. That dry air really wins out for you for sure. Beth, I will see you then. I'll see you on Tuesday. We'll have an update for you as well. John, Canton, Ohio. Woohoo! That's right. I'll tell you, Canton, Ohio looks good in terms of snow. If you're hoping for some snow and wind, this is going to be a big storm for you. Everything goes downhill early Friday in Canton. So we're going to go from rain over to a heavy snow, wind, big temperature drop. Again, that's Friday. So Thursday night, if you have travel plans or anything you need to get done, it looks like rain and wind at this point. But guys, here's the deal. If you ordered stuff today or yesterday, and it's expected to get here Friday, Saturday from FedEx, UPS, Amazon, whatever it happens to be, you may want to shop local the next couple days and get a backup plan. And the reason why I say that is because this isn't going to be a problem for just where you live. This is going to be an eastern half of the country problem. Shipping is going to be delayed. All right. This is going to be a mess for shipping. So I envision all these gifts out there that don't make it in time for Christmas because of this. All right. It stinks. I mean, this is terrible timing on this. A lot of places are going to get a white Christmas, and that's great. But a lot of places and a lot of people aren't going to have the gifts that they ordered, either yesterday or the day before, that are supposed to get here right before Christmas. So my advice for you is shop local, go out the next 2 days because we've got great weather, right? The system, again, doesn't move until Wednesday night. So that would be advice that I have for you in terms of getting all that. Yes, Steve, that's it. Yeah, 35 miles per hour, 3 consecutive hours. Yep, that's it. Visibility is one of the criteria as well. And visibility is going to be bad with this. Erica says, are your live videos posted to the website or YouTube? They are, yeah. So, Erica, the website, they don't get posted on there. They stay on our Facebook, which she doesn't have, which is fine. They're on YouTube, and these live videos stay on YouTube on our page. It's just search Region Weather on YouTube, and you'll be able to find these. And you can even go back to last Sunday and see when we were talking about this and kind of what the thinking was and kind of how this system's evolved since then, for sure. Bluegrass collectors, in terms of totals for Kentucky's going to get some good snow out of this. I think the bulkier snow in Kentucky happens with this main push where we get that temperature drop. We get heavy snow for a good 4 to 5 hours, and then we'll just get kind of some leftover flurry action after that. So you're looking at it right here. This would be Thursday night. That's when that temp drop's going to happen fast. Any rain and is going to freeze up real quickly, and we're going to turn to heavy snow. The wind is really going to be howling out there as well. But you notice how this low kind of wraps up off towards your north. There's still flurries around. If you're in the northern half, the Covington area, Louisville, you're still going to have some snow around from this. If you're in the southern half of Kentucky, I would say from Bowling Green down towards the south, there's not going to be much snow, but it's going to be windy and just really cold out of this. So just keep that in mind. All right. Snipes, that's a really good question. Yeah. Russ, I saw your comment as well. Snipes, that's a good question in terms of the extreme cold. Do you think the extreme cold will have a bigger impact on totals more than people think? I think the extreme cold is one of the elements we have to take seriously with this. I mean, wind chill values, depending on where you are going to be minus 20, minus 30. I mean, they're going to be minus 40 and 50 up in the northern plains from this. So the extreme cold is going to be a problem. The cold plays into our snowflake type, okay? So snowflakes, the heavy wet snow is always when your surface temperatures are right around freezing, okay? Because you have remember, the warmer the temperature, the more moisture it can hold, okay? That's why in the summertime, when it's hot, it's humid outside. It can't be humid this time of year because cold air doesn't hold humidity. It doesn't hold that much moisture. Same thing with snowflakes. So 32-degree temperature means you can have wet snow. The extreme cold that we have pushing in with this is going to say goodbye to any wet snow chances. And we're talking just a fluffy snow that's going to be coming down heavy at times, but it's going to blow around like crazy. So the extreme cold plays into that as well. But yeah, I mean, the cold is just as serious as anything else with this. I think the cold is a factor. The snow is going to be a factor, obviously, depending on where you are, and the power outages with the wind, because the wind component to this hits everybody. And a lot of places are going to see 30, 40, even 50, 60 mile per hour winds from this. Let's check St. Louis. I think St. Louis is in my mind, I would say a good 4 to 8 incher, and that would happen fast. Let's look at some of these totals. Again, when you look at these, this isn't truth. Okay, this is just the latest Euro run. We've looked at all the modeling earlier in this broadcast. But in terms of St. Louis's snow, I would say a quick hit of 4 to 8 inches. Models may be, yeah, models are right on with that. So there you go. That's kind of what I was thinking. So here's St. Louis. Boy, I just guessed 4 to 8 inches, and Euro's actually saying that, and who knows where we end up. But Euro has, good 6 inches, 8 to your north, and then as you get into Illinois, a little bit more. But keep in mind for St. Louis, I mean, that wind is going to be there, and that extreme cold is going to be there as well. So this is going to be blowing around like crazy by Friday afternoon. Susan, I like your comment. Ashton, in terms of Nebraska, yeah, Nebraska's going to get that initial hit from this as the Arctic air moves in. So they're going to get pretty much the Arctic front, and this happens earlier. This will probably happen Wednesday night, Thursday for them, where it's going to be, cold, but then they get hit with this Arctic front that's going to bring area-wide snow. You can see the model here saying anywhere from 3 to 6 inches, depending on where you are in the state or where you're traveling to. So snow's not going to be the biggest factor for Nebraska. It's going to be that wind with that snow initially, and then after that, it's just going to be windy and cold, and that snow will be blowing around. Yeah, Steve's absolutely right. Yeah, the wet becomes fluffy at 15 to 1. And we may see some 18 to 1 ratios. Could we get some 20 to 1s? That usually occurs with more of the cold lake effect events, but we'll see. Lance, that's okay, buddy. You can always go back and watch this and kind of use the rewind thing on there as well. But in terms of snow totals for Northwest Indiana, it's too early to call right now. Models are saying, and I kid you not, anywhere from 20 to 40 inches with this, okay? But that's based on that low passing just to our south and the east. So if that's the case, then that means we're in the sweet spot of the storm system. If this low travels even 20 miles to the north, that takes that sweet spot over Chicago. If it passes 20 miles to the south, or if it doesn't come together like that, it takes that sweet spot elsewhere, okay? Right now, we're not going to look at numbers. We're going to look at them because I'm looking at them, and I'm going to show you to them. But I don't want you to say, hey, we're getting 20 to 40 inches. What I want us to say is, hey, we're going to have an impactful storm later this week that could have a lot of snow with it. The guarantees with this, though, are the wind and the cold, and that we're going to get some snow out of this, okay? So that's kind of where we're going with this. Ross, it depends on what model you look at. Everything's kind of coming together. If you remember earlier in the week, the GFS had the storm going up the East Coast. It had heavy snow down in Florida. And everyone in Florida is like, what? We're going to get 12 inches of snow in the Panhandle? So the GFS has been a little waffly, all right, as it usually is. So the GFS has come west, okay? It's met up with the Euro, and the Euro started pretty much right where it is. The Euro's actually come a little bit further north in the west in this latest model. So that's where we are right now in terms of this. But that doesn't mean that's where we're going to go from here, is further north. Sometimes what happens with the Euro model run is that it will creep north a little bit. So that would push this heavier axis further north and west. But with this case, it's just such a different storm system. It's not one that's coming out of Oklahoma. This one is based on the Arctic air that's up in Siberia right now that's going to come screaming in. So it all depends on the exact speed of that jet stream as it curls in and how it spins off this low. So it's a little bit different of a setup than what we've been dealing with. Pamela, same for Maryville. I mean, you're right in the path of this for sure. Donkey, thanks for joining us. I like your picture there. Thanks for joining us on our YouTube channel. For Kansas City, pretty much the same as St. Louis. The model spitting out a little bit more for you, around 10 inches or so. I would say 4 to 8, just to be realistic as of right now. Could we see higher amounts? Sure. If we see kind of a deformation band is what we call it develop. But this is going to come mainly with that Arctic front. This isn't going to be from the huge storm system. It's going to be from that push of cold air where your temperature drops 40, 50 degrees and you get snow with that. And then the wind kicks in after that. Okay. All right. Yeah. So Steve, you're right in terms of the maps are based on 10 to 1 ratios, but the Kuchera model, which is kind of a newer thing, factors in some of those liquid ratios. So that gives you a more accurate read. You can look at 10 to 1 and you notice it's got numbers on it, like things change a little bit. Here it's about to adjust for you. You can see the 10 to 1 ratio has much less snow. So the Kuchera factors in the fact that we're going to have a fluffy snow, and that's why we get some of those higher totals out of it. Missy, that's a really good question, Missy. She asked, when do you think air travel will begin to be impacted? I think for the eastern half of the country, and this would be, Minneapolis out towards the east, I think things start to go downhill on Wednesday. All right. From Chicago east, I would say Thursday's where it starts to go downhill. And then the East Coast, that would be Friday where it starts to go downhill. But remember, everything's connected. So as this storm develops Wednesday night into Thursday, let's say O'Hare starts to get delays. That's going to impact a bunch of airports and the connecting flights. And then it just goes downhill from there. By Friday, we're going to be locked into a nasty storm system where a lot of places are going to be shut down, wherever this happens to go. Yeah, Donkey, it is for sure. Hi, Izzy. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Darla, I think the mountains in East Tennessee are going to get some snow out of this. It sure is going to get cold and it's going to get windy, but I think you'll see some flakes there. I really do. And that would be on the backside of the storm system as it's kind of winding down. See some, I don't know if you're going to have a white Christmas. That's defined by an inch or more, but I think you'll see some flakes, and it's right in this point right here as the system up right there. This is that push that's going to put down the 48 inches all the way back towards Nebraska. Okay. It's going to be very brief for you as dry air starts to kind of win in, but overall, I do think you see some snow there for sure. Yeah, Izzy, it's interesting in terms of this system. I don't know how much you follow the weather, but the GFS model had a real heavy snow for you out in New Jersey a couple runs ago. But that's come west. It's kind of met up with the Euro, so those make sense now. So it doesn't look to be a huge snow for you, but as the system winds up, I mean, there's going to be some snow on the backside of it for sure. Pamela, we'll do in the evening. We usually target anywhere between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. That seems to be the sweet spot in terms of time. So we'll be back on then. Kristen, you're absolutely welcome. Absolutely. Kathy, I understand that. I work in TV weather, and I get it. I get it. I don't know about the joke. I mean, I guess we can talk again on Friday and see how this goes. But I think, in terms of technology and being able to see these things in advance and putting some skill behind it, I think it's amazing that we can see some kind of storm like this 5 days in advance and to be able to tell you, hey, you might need to reconsider your Christmas plans. But again, we will talk again. If you'll join me on Friday, we'll see how this storm's shaping up for everybody. I say that kind of with some sarcasm. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get snarky with you. I felt like that might have been a little snarky, though. You're welcome. Robin, you're welcome. Brad, you're welcome as well. Brad, I got your email. I'll send you one back in just a second. Actually, unless I answered your question, then for sure. Snipes, I don't. I don't. I have friends that do. I'm connected with several of them, especially down towards the south. But yeah, I've got 3 kids of my own, so I don't do a lot of chasing right now. They're all youngsters. Lonnie, I hope you get snow in South Central Virginia. Boy, there's a chance when this thing kind of winds up here at the end. Boy, you're right on that line, though. That's the problem. But then it gets cold after that kind of moves through. But here's where you might get a little bit. I think you might see some flakes from this Friday, Saturday, because there's going to be enough wind coming off the lake, so that energy is going to head all the way down to the south. Steve, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate you subscribing for sure. Darla, thank you very much for the feedback. Kathy, you as well. Let's see. Mark says, from my experience, the western portion of Northwest Ohio almost protected by huge snowstorms by Lake Erie acting as a wedge, breaking apart low pressure systems, at least till lake freezes over. Mark, that's a really interesting take, and I can see what you're saying by that. For sure. I forecasted either off Lake Erie or Lake Michigan for the last 15 years, and I could see that. The way you get snow in Northwest Ohio, the best snow comes from those storms that form down in Oklahoma, and it's got to track right up through Columbus and then out towards the Youngstown area for you to get that sweet spot of that storm system. But oftentimes they don't take that track. They're further west, so that keeps you protected, or further off towards the east as well. So this one's going to be interesting, though, and I do think you get a lot of snow in Northwest Ohio from this. Just the way it wraps up. It wraps up differently than any storm I've forecasted really over the last 15 years. In terms of that cold air comes gushing in, and that causes it to spin, and it kind of comes north and then jogs back south again and wraps kind of into the area. And the wind is going to be so strong off Lake Michigan that I think it's going to drive a lake effect snow band into Northwest Ohio. I know that sounds crazy, but the lakes all kind of feed each other, and you can see it actually on the modeling here. This darker area is effect, right? So it's a picture from the system. The system snows there So it's actually lake enhanced snow, but it's driving snow from Michigan all the way down in this little line in West Ohio as well. If you're northwest, like the Bryan area, it's going to be different than, towards the Toledo area for sure. Brad, we do things big around here. So there's your video answer for sure. Connor, yeah, I think Scranton's going to see some snow. I don't think, the models had earlier this week. It's going to get temperature drop in Scranton. Gosh, that happens Friday for you. So you're going to go probably from the 40s down to the teens in a hurry. And that's Friday. That's Friday midday and afternoon. And the thing I'd worry about for you in Scranton is a black ice potential. You'll get some heavy snow after that as well. But Friday afternoon, Friday evening does not look good for you at all. Okay. Debbie, that's a great question asking about the thunder snow. Debbie, it's certainly possible. And that would happen. I think we could get some thunder snow with that initial punch of cold air where that temperature drops, because that is going to be such a strong push. There's going to be real good lift in the atmosphere from that. And I think there's going to be some convection to that. So I think we get some thunder and lightning within that band as it moves in. So that would be that initial hit of cold air where the wind starts howling and the rain changes over to heavy snow. We could also get some in terms of this lake effect banding. I would not be surprised if we saw some of the heavier lake effect bands producing that over the Great Lakes. So we'll see, but there's certainly a chance for that. All right. Steve, Simon Brewer. All right, I'll write that down for sure. I know, Connor, me too. I wish I had the answers, but the good news today in terms of accuracy with all this, guys, is that we're at the point now where the models are starting to have consensus on something. They were so far apart over the last couple of days that this wasn't even an option to begin to forecast or talk about what's going to happen specifically by town. But there's good consensus now. Euro's had a read on this for 3 days straight in terms of how this cold air wraps in with that very sharp temp drop. So confidence is increasing in that. What we're not 100% confident in is where that heavy snow goes, but it doesn't matter. Everyone's going to have the same impacts from this with the wind and the cold. Those two are guarantees. This system's a guarantee, but just in terms of the dynamics and the details of it, that's what we're going to be sorting out next couple of days. Darla, good question. So thunder snow is just what you think. It's when you have we're actually forming, larger ice crystals up inside the clouds. You've got enough lift or updrafts to create almost a thunderstorm structure in the cloud, which is super impressive. In the summertime, it's no problem because you've got heat that rises up into the cold air condenses. You've got a thunderstorm, right? As long as you have ice particles up in the cloud. But in the wintertime, it's super hard because we don't have the heat. So we rely on lift. And so when there's tremendous lift in the atmosphere, lots of upward motion, what that will do is that can create almost a thunderstorm-like or convective structure to that snow squall or whatever it happens to be. You can get ice nuclei up there that create, electrons, a positive and negative that we talk about, and you can actually get thunder and lightning. And it's in the middle of a snowstorm. It's incredible. Jim Cantori, obviously from the Weather Channel, he's known for just being, crazy about thunder snow. I am too, secretly. You can watch some videos of some of the stuff back in the past, some of the blizzards he's covered, where he freaks out, and it's really impressive. I grew up in the snow belt, and I remember as a kid, we would have there would be times of thunder snow. And you knew when you heard thunder and lightning outside and it was snowing that you would look outside and not be able to see anything. And that was always the case. It would be like a whiteout whenever that was happening, when you have really something very convective and strong. And you can get struck by lightning with thunder snow. It's just like a thunderstorm. Let's see. Mark asked a good question. Another question. And I might be getting behind your questions here, guys. I'm not going to be with you too much longer. We'll let you get on to your Sunday evening, but be happy to answer this. When did meteorologists start using metric when referring to barometric pressures? I'm so used to millimeters and HG. The metric equivalent is like a foreign currency to me. That's interesting. I don't really deal with, and I don't know when they made the switch, Mark, to answer your question. I don't really talk about pressure a whole lot, though. I mean, as a meteorologist, I don't hear that term very often unless it's we'll talk about high pressures being, super strong or whatever they happen to be. But that's not, to me, as a meteorologist, I don't like to get into terminologies with viewers. I like to keep things simple. I like to keep the hype out of it. By me, talking about hectopascals and all that good stuff, it doesn't do any good to the viewer. So, I can't tell you the last time I talked about pressure other than saying a high or low pressure, strong or weak. But again, that's not your question. I do not know the answer to that. Even though I don't hold hope until mid-January, what are your thoughts on coastal New Jersey snow shower chance Saturday? I think we could get some snow showers, Izzy, for coastal New Jersey on Saturday. You're just off the map here, but it would probably be Friday night, and then Saturday. Could some of these make it down to you? I think so. I think the models tend to, although the job of just the convective nature to the snow, whenever you get a cold air mass over the Great Lakes, you tend to get the Finger Lakes will get snow. You'll get snow ribbons all the way down in Virginia. I could see that happening on Saturday for you, but the big thing's going to be the cold, and you're going to have some wind around, and thankfully you're going to be missing some of this other stuff that's happening out towards the west. Mark, we'll see. I know. Listen, here's the deal with AccuWeather. They're great, but what you're seeing is a computer. They spitting out the computer models. All your phone apps are just the computer models that we look at, and meteorologists analyze them and talk to you about it, right? And there's nothing wrong with just looking at computer models, but the thing that's wrong with it is that when you've got your phone app or whatever it is, there's no meteorologist putting in the numbers, right? It's taking the raw data output and putting it into your phone. Okay. So you're seeing what the models are saying. So AccuWeather saying 3 inches for Northwest Ohio. Well, maybe that's what the model that they use is saying right now. And then tomorrow morning you wake up and it says 7 inches, and then it says 13 inches, and then it's back down to 2. And you're like, these weathermen don't know anything. These meteorologists don't know what they're doing. And it's not a meteorologist doing that. That's the raw data that we're looking at and analyzing. So you'll typically look at a meteorologist's forecast if they're good and have good experience, and their forecast won't waver much. I'm a big stickler when I do even a 10-day forecast for the TV side of things. I hate when my numbers change. And most of the time I'll carry through. I'll have the same numbers for highs all week long, or I'll try to do that. They may fluctuate a degree or two, but I like a nice steady forecast where if you watch me on Monday night and you watch on Friday night, the forecast hasn't changed much for that weekend, right? Versus the computer model output coming out, that changes a lot. But if you have experience in your market, if you're an experienced meteorologist, you know that some of those numbers coming out, like maybe the 3 inches for Northwest Ohio, to adjust those based on, past experience, stuff like that. Izzy, so we go every Sunday night. We'll talk about national weather very rarely. I mean, this is for Northwest Indiana. I grew up, or I didn't grow up. My first meteorology job was in Northwest Indiana, just outside of Chicago. So we started this page and this channel for that area. We will cover, obviously, national, storms like this with a little bit more detail, especially when a lot of people are traveling. So that's kind of how we've gotten into it tonight, for sure. All right. Let's see. I'm trying to get to a couple more of your questions because we're going to get going here, guys. I think we're at an hour and a half now, which is fine, but my voice needs to be around for tomorrow. Snipes, that's a good question as well. I think that's going to be a big threat in terms of pipes freezing. My best guess would be Arkansas and Tennessee north. There's going to be some really cold air. Some of these numbers at night are just bitterly cold, well below zero. And the fact that it's not just the fact that we're below freezing, it's the fact that we're way below freezing and for a long duration. All right. This lasts all the way through Christmas once we get cold. So there's that. Dylan asks, Miami County, Indiana. I think lesser for you in Miami County, but you're still going to get some snow. And this is all going to change. I mean, we have to keep our eye on the axis of this, but as of right now, for you, I think it was 8 to 12. For Northwest Indiana, it was the Euro's saying 20 to 40. Again, we're going to let that rest. That's not our forecast right now. That's just some of the model output. But I think you can expect at least 8 to 12 from this, and keep an eye, Dylan, on the track of that load, because you could end up getting a lot more depending on the track of this. Yeah, Amanda, I am too. I really, Maxwell Santa coming in strong this year. Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Okay, I'm getting way behind on your comments again. I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm going to answer a couple more, then we'll get you going, okay? Let's see. Crazy K says, can you offer insight into possible storm totals for central lower Michigan area? Okay, where the Natchez-Saginaw Bay is. I know where you're at. You can even give me a town, a geography minor. So there you go. Yeah, that's interesting. The 1978 blizzard, and that was the year. Boy, that was a winter for snow in Ohio and Michigan and Indiana. That was quite a winter for the Great Lakes. So central lower Michigan. Oh, you're going to have lake effect on top of this, so you're going to get quite a bit as well. I'll show you what the models are saying right now. I mean, I think you're going to get some good totals. Crazy K, I really think so. You can see this is what the Euro is saying. This is Christmas Day. This is how much snow it's expecting to fall through Christmas Day. A foot. I mean, I would go at least 8 to 12 right now, regardless of where the track of this low goes, because you're going to get lake effect snow bands. I know it's normally Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, but you're going to get them all the way into your area because the wind is so strong that it's going to take those bands and bring them further than they normally go. Plus, this system has a lot of snow with it. So I would expect some good snow. You're definitely going to have a white Christmas. All right. It's just a matter of how white are we expecting here for sure. All right. Eric, I'll tell you, I think so. Yeah, I think the lake effect snow for Chardon is legit, and this would be after the storm system. For Chardon and Cleveland over towards Ashtabula, what we're going to be dealing with is more than likely lake enhanced snow from this. So our system is still going to be producing snow. We're still going to be getting some moderate to heavy snow from this actual system as it winds up, but we're going to throw lake effect on top of that. Even down towards the Chardon area. So we could get some pretty hefty totals out of it. You notice the Euro is saying anywhere from 6 to 12 inches right now. And again, that's taking the core of that snow out towards the west. The GFS is higher for us locally. The GEM, the Canadian model, is a little bit lower. So it's anywhere in that range. But on top of this, we're going to have 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts. All right. We're going to have very cold temperatures. So all of this, regardless of how much we get, is going to be blown around. You're not going to be able to measure it anyway. So keep that in mind. Oh, Charlie Brown, I don't think so. Listen, if you were watching the GFS earlier this week, it had heavy snow down all the way down, not just Mississippi, but the Florida Peninsula, or not Florida Peninsula, the Florida Panhandle. And I know everyone down south was so excited about that, but that GFS just has something loose, a screw loose or something like that. It's taking the snow chances out. By the time the cold air gets to you, the dry air is won out. So there's not a lot of moisture left over. Let's see. Izzy, in terms of snow for your brother in University Heights, Cleveland area, I know exactly, actually lived pretty close to that. Not now, but we did. Probably, I would say right now 6 to 12er, but some of the models over the last couple of days had up to 20 inches. So it's going to be one of those snows. I would say at least 6 inches of snow from this. And that, again, would be on the low side of things. Tam, that's a really good question. So more concerned with the snow or the wind. I would say, and this isn't the easy answer, the cold, I think, is number one. The wind chills are going to be incredibly cold. But the snow-wind combo is what's going to be the problem. The fact that we're going to have widespread 40, 50, 60 mile per hour winds with this. This is a massive area of low pressure. It's going to be very strong. And the snow is going to be very fluffy on the backside, so it's going to blow around easily. So that combination, I think, is going to be the bad part of this whole system. Yeah, Nicole, I know we're still going here. We've turned national now, which I have no problem answering. There's a lot of people traveling. It's Christmas, so this is my gift to you. But in terms of this broadcast going on, Nicole, I know you were still on there earlier. This is going to take a while to upload for sure. So, all right, let's get one more question in here, and then we're going to get you on your way here on this Sunday night. Yeah, the mullet barber, I don't know about that. Well, we haven't had that many winter storms. Yeah, out towards the west, the GFS has been good with those West Coast storms. But boy, with this one, it has been totally off, way off. I'm talking hundreds of miles off, at least initially, albeit the storm hasn't happened yet. So, does it all correct to what the GFS had before? But I've always leaned Euro with a GFS blend. I'll throw some of the GFS in there. I'll even look at the Canadian model because it's not always wrong, and kind of throw that in there. But in terms of this storm, the Euro has performed the best in terms of picking this up because all the other models came to what the Euro was thinking, which is that wrap up where you get the cold air coming in, that flash freeze and all that. Okay. All right, let's get one more question for you. Eric, absolutely. We'll keep you updated on that Chardon thing for sure. All right, last question from Gregory. Since both the Euro and GFS models have trended so far west from just a few days ago, which they have, what do you think the chances are that they both trend back east in upcoming days? Gregory, that's a wonderful question. Thank you for that. That's a great question. So typically what happens in winter storms is the Euro tends to jog a little bit further north, at least from my experience. It doesn't mean it happens with every storm. And the GFS is usually the north running storm, at least in my experience, and that will trend a little bit further south. In this case, that doesn't make sense, right? Because this storm system isn't a typical storm system that has a low pressure that forms down in the south and goes north. This is a totally different beast, and the reason why it's going to be so strong is because this one is based on an Arctic front plowing into the U.S. with a 200-knot jet stream, which is incredible, that's blowing into this. So I always use the analysis of if you have bath water and you put your hand in it and you push your hand through that bath water, what happens to the water at the top of your hand and the bottom of your hand? It swirls, right? That's the same thing with our atmosphere. Our atmosphere is very fluid, right? It's chaos up there. It's fluid. So we've got this Arctic air mass that's charging into the country, much like a hand going through bath water. And this isn't like a typical low that just spins up and we're tracking, north-south movement of this. We're tracking how and have to keep track of how strong this wind is to the exact speed that this wind is coming in on the jet stream to determine where that low starts spinning and how strong it gets. So this is kind of a different beast in terms of north-south. To me, I want to make sure it evolves the way the models have said it's going to evolve, because this show you here, this thing is evolving basically out of nothing, and it's waiting on that Arctic air to come in. So this is what I'm talking about here. See how it's not quite together yet. This is Thursday. Here's your Arctic air charging in. Here's your warming air on the front side, but this part is your hand going through water, right? So it's going to spin up something on the northern side of it. So how exactly does that happen? You can see how, by Thursday night, Friday, we get this low to develop, but does it develop like this? Do we have this surge further south? Because if the surge comes further south, this low will develop further south. Does the surge come in further north? It's a different setup than just a typical, where does this low track kind of thing, okay? So I hope that makes sense. I hope that helps to kind of explain it a little bit, okay? All right, everybody. Well, we're going to let you go. Oh, cool, man. I don't think you asked a stupid question. There's no such thing. That's not a stupid question at all. Does putting rock salt on your deck, sidewalk, and driveway help prevent the snow from accumulating too fast? So that's not a dumb question. That's a great question. So, and I promise this is the last one, okay? In terms of rock salt, you can put it down. If it's most people with the storm, though, it's going to be raining out in advance of that. So pre-treatment on roads, rock salt on your deck, it's not going to help much because it's going to wash away, okay? A lot of it is. So that's the problem with this, is that a lot of the roads aren't going to be pre-treated like they normally are because they're not able to do it when it's raining. And then everything's going to turn to ice because we're all getting that big temperature drop. We get this heavy push of snow on the back side of it. And in terms of your rock salt idea, it's a good idea if you have a light snow. But what's going to happen here is this push of snow, depending on where you're located, is going to come in and it's going to be heavy. This snow is going to be heavy. And when you have heavy snow, it'll start to accumulate on your rock salt, right? But it'll overcome that. And so all of a sudden you have a blanket of snow that doesn't care about the rock salt anymore. It's snow, and the snow will pile up real easy on snow. So, if you have a light enough snow, yes, that works. You could put it on, your sidewalks, all that stuff, and it works just fine. But in this case, it's going to be a heavy enough snow that it's not going to matter. So I wouldn't do anything like that. Okay, you live in Southern Illinois. I get that. Yeah, this snow is going to be too heavy for you for that to actually work, okay? All right, guys. Oh, I'm seeing some Georgia questions. Used to live in Georgia. North Georgia mountains may get some snow out of this, but I think that's it. I really think that's it for you. Love, Johnny. I'm sorry, but if you head up to North Georgia mountains, Dahlonega, out towards Blue Ridge, you may get a little bit of snow up there, okay? For you, it's just going to be wicked cold for even Georgia. And we're talking 20s for highs, teens for lows. It's going to be really cold. This gets all the way down into Florida, so pretty incredible. Okay. All right, guys, we're going to let you go. I hope this was helpful. That's always the point of these. Again, I don't do these for clickbait. I do this so it's informative and you actually understand what's going on with the weather and have a better idea of how it kind of is going to evolve. So we're going to do another broadcast on Tuesday night. We'll cover travel. We'll cover latest on the system. We'll go from there. Okay. All right. All those of you that stuck it out for an hour and a half with me, I appreciate it. All right. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks again.